pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to get started. My name is Diane McAllister, and I'm chairperson of Pennsville Town Watch and Community Pride. And I'd like to welcome everyone tonight for our first Meet the Candidates ever of the freeholders and the Pennsville Township Committee. At this time, I'd like to turn the forum over to our moderator, Mr. Wayne Lynn.
Okay. Welcome candidates and residents of the county to our second Meet the Candidates night. There'll be two separate forums. We'll start with the Township Committee, and it'll be a kind of 15-minute break, and we'll go right into the freeholder segment. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a bio, 2 minutes to answer each question, and 2 minutes for a summation at the end of each forum. Candidates do numbers for the seating placement, and that also dictates the role of the question. Please check, make sure your cell phones are off. Please no clapping until the end of each forum. Please do not interact with the candidates during the forum. There'll be time afterwards for you to do that. So we're going to jump right into the first question. And Mark Chastain will get to answer this question first. I'm sorry.
Bio.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Mark will do your bio, and we'll just pass the microphone down to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Chastain, and I just want to start by thanking Diane and Joan and all the members of Town Watch and Community Pride for putting this forum on. I've been a member of the Township Committee now for 3 years. Prior to that, I was on the Resource Recovery Committee for 2 years, and I've been on the Planning Board for 11 years now. The Planning Board is a volunteer position, but I think it's important that we get involved in the community and that we give our time in the places that we're best at. And my background is I'm a project manager out at the island. My background is in construction and land use, and that's where my expertise is, and therefore that's where I'm best able to serve. I've been married for 28 years. My wife, Tamara, my trophy wife, I call her. I have 3 children who all went to school here in Pennsville. And I think the most important thing about being a member of the Township Committee is understanding what the responsibility is. And our responsibility is to provide you, the residents, with all of the basic services that you need, your roads, your street lights, your sewer, things of that nature, and still keep the tax base as low as possible. So it's a balancing act, and then you throw in on top of that the maze of federal and state regulations that we have to deal with. It's difficult, but it's a job that we take great pride in, and we are very happy and proud to serve.
Hello, I'm Robbie Dade. Been a Pennsville resident my entire life, for 64 years. Married to my wife Marcia for 44 years. I have 3 married children and 7 grandchildren. All live in Pennsville, all own houses in Pennsville. I worked at DuPont for about 38 and a half years. I was a senior construction specialist with the Corporate Environmental Group. I also own a small business with my partners, my 2 sons. I've done that now for about 18 years out of Pennsville. So I understand the problems of trying to run a small business in the state of New Jersey. I've been your deputy mayor for the past 6 years. I'm the chairman of the Pennsville Sewage Authority, a member of the South Jersey Economic Development District. And when I'm not doing township business or putting tents up and down, I'm chasing 7 grandchildren around to every sporting event known to man.
My name is AJ DeSantis. I was born and raised in Pennsville. I'm 30 years old. I just want to give a quick little story. When I was in second grade, I wanted to improve this town. And I went up to the township committee and I said, what can I do? They said, well, come back with an idea. So I went back, I got a couple friends together, and I came up with a flower garden project. I was in second grade. What I wanted people to do was to beautify their yards. When I got done, I went and I shook the mayor's hand, and it was Mayor Gallagher at the time, and I said, when I get older, I'll have your job. I am now a school teacher in Pennsgrove. This is my first full year teaching, and my entire goal here is I want to live here for my next 50, 60 years. At one point, I want to be sitting where you are as well, because I want to be just as active in this community. This is my home. I love this place, and that's what I'm looking out for.
Hi, my name is Christine Hoon. I want to thank Diane and the Pennsville Town Watch and Community Pride and the other candidates for participating today. Diane for hosting this. I was going to begin with my bio, but I have that in a brochure on the table in the back of the room, so I wanted to talk about other things. I love my home. I love Pennsville. I've always been community-minded, volunteering in the community. I'm on many volunteer and elected boards, like the Board of Directors at the Salem County Sportsman's Club. I work helping homeless children in Pennsville and Salem County. I work hard transforming lives. Pennsville is being left behind, though. Currently and in the past, it has been the same people in office, or those in office as they come out, are appointed to positions within the town. Politics as usual. I'm new to politics. I do not owe any favors, and I do not have any deep relationships politically. These same people have been governing the same way for 20 plus years. DuPont began closing and demolishing buildings, and our government chose to bury their head and in denial continue on as they always had. They would spend and spend until nothing is left. Now they have to cut services because there's no vision or plan. This didn't suddenly happen. The incumbents have been in office for nearly a decade, and they should have seen this happening. They are enjoying their titles and positions too much. You go to a town meeting and they get very dressed up for a 12-minute meeting. They're not taking this role seriously. They are managers. They're looking at their job operationally. They have kept the lights on and we haven't fallen in the river, but our town is in crisis. And without looking outward and beyond, what we always have done, we will become a ghost town.
All right, now for the questions. Chastain will answer be the first one to answer this question. What is your vision for Pennsville Township, and what is your plan to reach that goal?
Well, my vision for Pennsville Township is going to be very much like all of yours. I'm looking for a town where, now that my children are grown, where they can raise their families, where they can live in peace, in safety, where they can afford the tax burden that comes with living in a township. To do that, we've got to fundamentally change the complexion of the town. We did live for many, many years off of DuPont's revenues, and that has gone away, and there's no reason to believe that it's coming back. When we had all that income coming into the town, we kind of got inverted on the tax base, whereas the residents are picking up now 2/3 of the property tax, and businesses are only picking up about 1/3. It really should be the other way around in a healthy town. So what we've got to do is we've got to find ways to entice commercial entities to come into town to help with the tax burden. Now that's not easy. Every township in the county and in the state is trying to entice these same businesses to come in. So you're in a place where you've got to do tax abatements, you've got to work deals to make it attractive for a business to relocate here to Pennsville. There are disadvantages in being in New Jersey. There are disadvantages in being right across the river from Delaware. So it's not an easy task, but there are ways that we can go about doing it. And one of those ways is to go through pilot programs where we allow businesses to make a payment in lieu of taxes for some period of time. That's beneficial to the town because we get more money from that than we would normally for our 1/6 of the tax base. And it's also beneficial to the business because their overall cost is reduced. In that way, we can entice business to come into town and reverse the proportion of the tax base.
I have to agree with everything Mark just said, but also we have a vision. We're in the process of rebuilding the pier at the park, and I know this has been talked about for years, but we're finally to a point where we have cooperation between states. Delaware approached us about actually doing this. I think this would be the first step to actually be a real riverfront property. We had a meeting, we've had several meetings with all the regulatory agencies. We've had finance people, we've had politicians from Trenton. We have written a request for a proposal that will be sent out here shortly for contractors to come back and give us some kind of idea of the feasibility of this project. And of course the cost. Cost, real important. This is not a project that's going to be funded by Pennsville taxpayers. This project will be funded by federal grants, state grants, but I think it's the first step to improve or rehabilitate the whole area of Main Street, Ferry Road, Pittsfield Street. Some people have bought up properties down there expecting this to happen sometime. So I think if we can get this first piece of the puzzle in place, I think you'll see the restaurant change down there. I think a lot of things will happen. The other part of the equation is we need to utilize the park more. We have things, wine festivals planned, and I think there's many other things that we can be doing with that property. The point is we need to bring people into town to utilize the present businesses so we can entice other folks to come in and build new businesses. So I think traffic is key, and I think we really have a shot at doing that stuff.
I actually want to echo some of that. I feel like we had the conversation before this. No, I completely agree with some things. The park is underutilized. We should be a family community. This place used to be a family community. This is where families wanted to grow. And there's just not a whole lot for families to do anymore. But you're absolutely right about the park needs to be more utilized. What we need to do, though, is reach out to the community groups that we have in town already. They can help put on events. It doesn't need to be as big as Septemberfest. We need to provide stuff for our own families to do. We don't want to send them across the bridge. The more that we can do in Pennsville, the more people will be here, that they'll want to be here, then they'll also patronize the businesses we have in town. I'm actually a huge fan of this, of making this pier happen here. It's going to give us a chance, if we go through the proper channels, of revitalizing the area. We could be something like Haddonfield, where they have the nice lined niche stores. We have to give reasons for them to come here, because as of right now, it's going to look like it's going to be a one-way trip right over to Delaware. And we need to revitalize this town to keep people here and also to bring the Delaware residents over. But we need to be more community-oriented. I feel like even a lot of the groups around here, nobody wants to help out the town anymore, and it's because it's a lack of a pride. We need to restore the pride to this town.
I have concern that some of the visions that have been stated haven't been enacted before now. I have a vision, and my vision is that I see families moving back here. I see our high school graduates going to college, coming back and deciding that Pennsville is where they want to raise their families. I can see our riverfront as a place where you can walk, hang out, have dinner, shop, and listen to a concert. I can see where nonprofits create programs and facilities with activities for our children, like a skate park. I can see where businesses have moved here and repurposed or redeveloped empty buildings. How to achieve these things will take many different pathways and tactics. Some will be addressed in later questions, such as empty homes, attracting businesses, and balancing services and taxes. Improving the neighborhoods by addressing the empty homes will increase the property values and the desirability of living in Pennsville, making it a more attractive place to live. I will help individuals that have a desire to create programs for their children to become a 501c3 and work with them to develop plans to create facilities and provide their own liability insurance. I will help them connect with resources within the township to help them achieve these goals. The Recreation Department, the solicitor, etc., and outside agencies that can help guide them through the process. Development along the waterfront and the park creates a walkable area that will be able to get through Green Acre grants and nonprofits to create and build areas of the park like an amphitheater that can be used by our schools and nonprofits like PCPAT and other new nonprofits. These new programs will also encourage families to move here. Thank you.
The next question will start with Mr. McDade. Question 2, what is your plan to reduce flooding within the township?
Flooding in Pennsville is a very complex, very expensive topic. This isn't something we're going to be able to answer in 2 minutes, but I'll give you what we're doing. We're spending $1.5 million to replace the pumping station on Hook Road. Hook Road Station takes the water from as far away as Valley Park, a tremendous area. The freeholders are in the process of raising the elevation of Hook Road, particularly where it floods and comes across in the wrong direction towards the pumps. We have put generators on critical pumps along the river. We're in the process of replacing some discharge piping at the Benson Road Station. We just replaced a pump on Kansas Road. We just ordered a pump, a $65,000 pump from a submergible pump to replace Georgia Road. We want to do that before we have a problem, so we'll have one that we can rotate. Again, flooding in Pennsville is a complicated subject, particularly when your services, your underground utilities and stuff are designed for 2-year flood event or 2-year storm events. We had 2 100-year storm events in a row. There is no design that's going to handle that kind of water. So we're doing our best to keep what we have running at as close to 100% efficiency as we can, and hopefully we don't have any more 100-year storms. So.
I feel a little disadvantaged answering this question, but I have some ideas. So I would at least like to present my ideas, and maybe from my ideas, conversation will start. We need to continue going after grants. After Superstorm Sandy, they have made grants available, but we need to find grants that we're not going to have to pay half of it. There are some grants out there where you can match a portion of it and find grants for more money. And that would go to not only update and upgrade the infrastructure of our existing pumps, but we can also do it to put more pumps in, because I understand that flooding is a problem. Also, because of our emergency management team, we should know when storms are going to hit. One of the biggest problems is these storm drains are backed up and clogged. We need to send township maintenance workers around to make sure that some of these large clogs don't back up the water so that they're flooding our roads. But this would also be something that we would also ask the community to help out with, because there are many storm drains that people drive by and they go, oh, someone else will get that. Well, other people aren't getting that, and we need to ask the community for their help, because the township maintenance workers will not be able to get to every storm drain. And then we also have a problem where some of this town is sinking. We need some of the land raised. Now, again, I don't have all the answers because I'm not involved in the process yet, but we have a lot of extra land in the dike. Why can't we move some of that to elevate some of the land that's sinking?
Flooding's been a problem that's existed forever. A lot of money has been spent, and it's been to no avail. Flooding will continue to be a problem into the future, even more so with the rising water table worldwide and more frequent storms. The current system does need to be continuously updated through scheduled upkeep and planned upgrades. A new idea would be, instead of continuing to spend the same money trying new ideas, would be for the township to build a retention pond in the woods at the end of Jefferson Avenue. Along with new pumps, this would dramatically reduce some of the flooding. In addition, the township has to understand the effect of repeated devastation of flooding on families. The added cost of flood insurance for families who live in a privileged area where they have high flood insurance costs, but they have no rights to file a claim. It may be better in some areas where we cannot correct the situation, recognize that this is not a livable area. The township should rezone the area to be green space, grandparenting the existing homeowners, but preventing new homes to be built in such areas such as 104 and 106 Delaware Avenue.
One of the things that we think about when we think about flooding is upkeep on the current infrastructure. It's no surprise that the infrastructure underneath the town is aging. A lot of the drainage piping went in 50, 60 years ago, and like me, and I'm in between 50 and 60, doesn't everything work quite as well as it used to. One of the things that we've started doing over the past couple of years is video inspection of the undergrounds. And what we're finding is that there are a lot of places where there are underground issues ready to happen. By identifying them early, we're able to fix them when they're less expensive to correct and before they become a problem for everyone. Now we have hundreds, literally hundreds of miles of underground piping in our stormwater and our wastewater removal systems. So it's going to take a long time to get through all of it. In fact, my estimation is that by the time we get to the end, it'll be time to start over at the beginning. But what we're achieving with that is we're getting a good look at the system for the first time in decades. We're finding out where the issues are and we're correcting them before they become a flood in someone's basement. Can we correct all of the stormwater issues in Pennsville? No. We live on a tidal river. We have water, and that's just part of the characteristic of the town. We're never going to be able to predict and prevent all the storms that come our way, but by keeping our infrastructure ready and operating at maximum capacity, we can minimize the effect of these storms and flooding on the residents.
Now, Mr. DeSantis, start with the third question. There are many homes in Pennsville that are abandoned and unkept. What is your specific plan to understand the magnitude of this problem and what steps can be taken to address the issue?
As a team, we have started to put together a map. And what the map does is it lists where all of these homes are. We also need to, I would say, form a volunteer committee where they're going to make sure that we are continuing action on these homes. The more attention we bring to it, the more attention that these eyesores are getting. At the same time, I just found out it took 4 years to take care of one home. What we need to do is cast a net out and take action on many homes at a single time. Every house might not take 4 years. Some will, some won't. It's not going to be a simple and easy project. Also, I read a report where the most populous age of people right now in this country is 18 to 25. None of them are ready to buy homes. Within the next 5 to 10 years, these people are going to be starting families. They're going to be finding better paying jobs, and they're also going to be ready to buy homes. So, as long as we are able to maintain the upkeep of these abandoned properties so that they are livable once these people are ready to buy homes, we will once again have a thriving community.
I'd like to ask the audience, raise your hand if you live within 4 doors of an empty home. This is something that affects all of us. It affects me. I have a house behind me that's empty, and there's animals living inside the pool, and it's been empty for what seems like years. Years and years. If you ask the township, they can't even tell you how many there are. Empty houses, that is. They say it's too expensive to create a list, and they do not have the manpower to build it. A law was passed at the state level to charge bank owners foreclosed properties $1,500 a day for not maintaining properties. The article was written in the newspaper on August 24th, and this It also stated measures that were taken by towns like Woodbury and Westville to attempt to do something before the state statute was passed. Our township hasn't taken advantage of this law yet. Instead, they asked the solicitor in a meeting that I was at in October to model an ordinance on an outdated Westville ordinance instead of the new state law. And this is only after the article came out. I attended a Pennsboro meeting last week, and they passed the ordinance using the new state law. I looked at our other neighbors in Carneys Point and Salem, where they've had similar laws in place, although the penalties weren't as severe as the state law. Why haven't we been looking at our neighbors who have been dealing with these issues for years? At the August Township Watch meeting, we talked about this issue, and we discussed about ways that we could help develop a list for the town. My team started working on this in late August, and we determined that if you took pictures with your phone, it had a geotag on it, and then you could use that to create a list. Then a task force could be created, which would include elected officials, township employees, the housing officer, Pennsville Town Watch, select members, and other stakeholders, such as mortgage representatives, and then they could then work with that list.
In order to understand the magnitude and complexity of the problem, there are a couple of basic things that everyone needs to understand. The first is that abandoned homes are not ownerless homes. Okay? People walk away from homes, but that doesn't mean they don't still own them. Legally, the homes are still owned by the persons who took the mortgage, who own the home. And thanks to some creative legislation at the federal level, lenders have an extremely difficult time foreclosing on these properties. And they can sit abandoned but owned by someone who's not making mortgage payment for better than a year before the mortgage company can even take possession. At that point, the township takes possession. Oh no, that's right. The mortgage lender takes possession. So at no point in the process does the township own the abandoned homes. That severely limits what we're able to do as far as rehabbing those properties. Now there are some ordinances that can be done. We have enacted a couple of ordinances where we added additional funding to the inspection process, and we've enacted an ordinance where we have a designation as an abandoned home. That sets us up legally to be able to take action on some of the homes.
Mr. Chastain, it's going to continue to do that if you don't hold it closer.
You got to hold it closer?
Yeah. It's sorry.
All right. So I'll hold it closer and talk soft.
You can talk loud.
All right. We put ourselves in a position to be able to take advantage of the state legislation by establishing a set of fines that could be applied to homeowners and or lenders. But remember, these are people who can't afford to pay their mortgage. So I'm not really sure how much fines do other than create tax liens that some potential purchaser would have to satisfy before they could buy the property and rehab it. You hear a lot about large-scale rehab in the town. Well, when you hear large-scale rehab, you need to think tax increase. Because the reality of the situation is that over the past few years, we've taken care of about one house a year. That's $40,000 or $50,000 to go through the process and potentially demolish a house. This year, because the problem is getting worse, we're looking at 4. But when you start talking about trying to make a significant dent, you're talking about a significant amount of township money, and that's money that you folks are going to have to pay in additional taxes to take care of. That's not where we want to be. So there are other ways to take care of the problem, and that's through creating a situation where a homeowner is inspired or is, to make them want to do something with the property rather than take the fines or take the demolition.
Once again, you didn't leave me a whole lot left to say about that subject, but Delaware, the homes on Delaware Avenue were mentioned. These homes, you got to understand, you don't just go in and say we're going to tear a house down. There's rules and regulations. There is certified construction people that have to go in and deem these things unrepairable and finally get to the point where you can discuss demolition. Those two properties are on the list. We finally got through the legal process. Thought we were making headway, and all of a sudden the owners of these properties jump up and take us to court and appeal the decision. So now the houses not only aren't getting torn down, but now we're back in court paying lawyers $200–300 an hour to take us to the next step. So it's not just you look at these houses and you think they're nasty looking and you tear them down. That's not the case at all. And as Mark alluded to, most of these places we are getting taxes on these properties. You take that property tax away, and guess what? Everybody in this room gets to share that burden. So it too it's a very expensive problem. Another thing about mapping and identifying these properties. This has been done, and it's been done in a way that pictures were taken and they were plastered on websites. And that does nothing but invite scrappers and homeless people and everything else to come on in and camp out in these houses. The last thing in the world we want to do is let people know exactly where these places are at. And by the way, some of them were not unoccupied. Some of them were people actually living in these places. So not a good idea to post these things on websites.
Ms. Owen, start with you for the question 4. How can we balance the need to provide basic services to our township with a desire to keep the tax rate low?
This is almost the same question that was asked in the paper. There I discussed working with community groups like the Pennsville Town Watch and churches to expand the reach of township government beyond the taxable budget. This way we could expand services like with the task force I discussed earlier. Technology is something that's often discussed but never used to its potential. I would implement technology to increase communication with constituents. Information updates could be sent through multiple platforms of social media. There's tools that can do this automatically, duplicate and send, and this method allows residents to become more participatory. There's no added cost to increase this communication. Videos of meetings could be run live online and recorded at the same time with little or no cost. The video can then be indexed and then searchable. I would also use this technology to overhaul the infrastructure of Pennsville government. Cloud-based applications could be used to reduce capital expenses. You wouldn't have to buy as much equipment or staff to maintain them. Historically, the budget is balanced by eliminating services and making cuts. Instead, we have to find ways to be creative. We need to look outside of ourselves. We need to be looking at the quality of life first. There are things about Pennsville that makes it a desirable place to live. Campaigning, I met people that have moved here from Newcastle. They love living here. They love how safe it is. Thank you, Chief Cummings. And they love that it's a small town. They love the schools. Our town has a great waterfront, and we need to highlight it and remind people what is good about Pennsville, but we just can't say it. People have to feel it. They have to experience it. We don't have to do this on our own. We can look outside of Pennsville and look for best practices.
The primary job of the Township Committee is to provide the basic services. And as I said before, that's police, that's ambulance, that's fire, your streets, the street lights, storm sewers, the park. All of that comes as a price. And as the question asks, that's the hardest part about being on the Township Committee, is how do we make sure that we give you everything that you need, everything that you deserve, everything that you want as a resident of the town, and still keep as much of your money in your pocket as we can. In order to do that, we've got to be creative. We've got to look at shared services, and we have a few of those, when they benefit Pennsville. There are a lot of shared services over the years that have been thrown on the table that don't benefit us. And so, because our allegiance is to the taxpayer, we don't jump into shared services lightly. But we have a few. We have dispatch, we have the pound, we have some electrical cooperatives that we use that save money for the taxpayers. Additionally, we've cut back on a lot of the work groups in town, becoming more efficient as the budgets have gotten tighter. that puts us in a good position for the future. I'm hopeful that the economy is going to improve, and when that happens, I will tell you that the decisions that we've made over the last few years have put us in a great position to benefit from that improving economy. We've cut back on our staffing, we've improved the quality of some of our equipment, and we continue to do that. And we've done all of that by and still held the township debt at a very low minimum. Compared to other towns in the county and even in South Jersey, we're one of the lowest debt to budget ratio townships. And that is our commitment to you.
Basic services. At this time, we have 12 people, 12 employees in our highway maintenance department. At one time, there was 43. Now, that's when we were collecting our trash and stuff, but 43 people down to like 12, and using part-time people during leaf season, snow plowing, the busier times of the year. So, in my estimation, I think these folks are doing a great job. They're hitting the streets, they're taking care of the leaves, they're doing everything that they need to do for the basic services. Police department. If you look at the pictures of the police departments of the past, there was 34 police officers. We have 22. It's a different mindset now. The folks that are working for us now are doing more. They're I think, much more productive. And one of the ways that we've increased the productivity is we've given them better equipment. When I first got in office 6 years ago, the guys were in there welding up truck frames and all kinds of things. They were spending more time repairing junk and scrap iron than they were actually doing the jobs. So we've improved that by buying better equipment, and equipment that's essential. It's not Christmas time where you go out and buy a bunch of nice shiny stuff. You must have things to handle this brush, these leaves, and everything else. When they leave your house, leave your street, that's not the end of it for us. We have to do specific things with that material, and it's state law that tells us how to do it. You need a tub grinder to chip this stuff up. You need all this different type of equipment. So I think we're doing a very nice job with with much less manpower, and that goes to keeping the tax rate down to where it is. And that goes for all our departments. I'm highlighting the highway because that's the one I'm most familiar with. But it's every department. We're down to bare bones. I don't see us going any lower. And at the same time, I think that people are working very well together and providing adequate service.
You're right. We are operating at the bare bones, but it's what we have to do to be able to keep the taxes low for the taxpayers. At the same time, we still have to look at other ways where we can save money. Shared services have been mentioned. The most expensive part of these organizations, though, are the administrator costs. Now, there has to be a way where we can share administrator costs with other towns, with people that are doing the same job. I'm not looking to get rid of township employees that we currently have, but when contracts end, and I'm not just talking about Pennsville, I'm talking about other towns as well, by being able to cooperate with Pennsgrove and Carneys Point and Salem, we might be able to share a little bit of the manpower as well for overseeing of specific things. It's just one way that we can look to continue to help with not taking a whole lot of your taxpayer money. There's definitely certain services that we couldn't even look at getting rid of to begin with because they're essential. This is why you live here. We want to create a safe community. We want somewhere where you are going to want to live in the next 10 to 15 years. Because as I was out walking, everyone keeps telling me, I'm going to Delaware, taxes are too high. At the same time, you have to have some of these services. We just have to start getting a little more creative.
Okay, the fifth and final question for the Township Committee will start with Mr. Chastain. What is your specific plan to bring new businesses to Pennsville?
Okay, I think I answered this one already, but specifically, in order to bring new business to Pennsville, we have to be competitive with the other townships, other municipalities that we're competing with for those businesses. So as I said, we put a pilot program into place. What that does is it allows those businesses to pay less taxes than they normally would pay without the pilot program. And it also allows the township to recognize more revenue. So essentially what a pilot program would do would be, for example, you might give a business a 50% pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes for 10 years. So for 10 years, they would make a payment to the town instead of taxes that would be half of what their taxes would normally be. Obviously, that's an advantage to them, something to use to entice them. The advantage to the township in that is that we get 50% of what the taxes would be rather than 1/6, which is what we currently get out of the tax bill. There's no disadvantage to the school because the business doesn't put any additional burden on the school by bringing children into town that the school has to deal with. So really, the only one that comes up short on the deal is the county. Sorry, guys. But it works for Pennsville, and it is absolutely the only way that we're going to entice business to come into town. We have to compete with our neighbors. We have to compete with Delaware. It's not a level playing field. So anything that we can do to bring them into town, and that's going to improve the tax base, it's going to improve the ratios, and certainly going to improve the quality of life for all of our residents.
New business in Pennsville. I'd like to touch on just some of the things that are happening in Pennsville because I think people are under the impression that we're stagnant and nothing's going on. The new Wawa, it came to the planning board last night. Bill Giuliano, who owns all that property and has developed that, and still has visions of several more phases for that property. Restaurants, he's got several plans. Hopefully when the Wawa gets underway, he'll start the next phase. And he's done that, so we have complete faith that he's going to continue to do that. But I wanted to touch on one thing. Last night he came to the Pennsville Planning Board, got through his last hurdles with some DOT problems and the like, and stood up at the end of the meeting and said that this is the most user-friendly planning board in South Jersey. Vicki, as the chairman of that, can back me up on that. When you've got a multi-millionaire that says he loves Pennsville, loves doing business in Pennsville, that's a great thing. It hasn't always been that way. But that is the kind of atmosphere that is there now to entice people. When people come into that planning board to start new business, these guys are bending over backwards to make sure they can do that. And while we're talking about new business, when something comes up, we have people in the township. Cindy, she makes phone call after phone call trying to entice businesses to come into this town. It's not like, everybody's sitting around just waiting. But you can't make people come in here. But things that are happening in Pennsville, with the Super Wawa getting ready to start. McDonald's is expanding. Peterbilt's expanding. We have a donut shop going up. Dollar General, or whatever dollar store it is, it's starting. So Siegfried just spent $8 million expanding their plant. So while it looks like nothing actually is happening, in reality, we're moving along. We're moving forward. Not nearly as fast as we'd like, but I can see the economy's starting to turn around a little bit. I think we're going to see much improved economy.
I made the planning board my #1 issue. And it wasn't because I had the problems. It was because from my last campaign and from this campaign, every time I go out and I talk to someone, they go, I gotta go through the planning board. I've had people tell me that they've stopped projects because the planning board has been too difficult for them. They've told me that they've had to go back time and time again because they were rejected for this or for that. This isn't just one occurrence. This is multiple occurrences. This is probably one of the #1 things that people are upset about here is that they want to improve their homes. But if the homeowners are having this much problems, I can only imagine that business owners are having the same problems. And it's new businesses. How many of you in here have actually heard of new businesses that wanted to come in 10 years ago that aren't here now? It's got to be quite a few. There's been so many stories of businesses that, oh, this is coming. Oh, this is coming. And you know what? We still don't have it. There has to be a way, and while not being on the board, I don't know what that way is yet, but as a history teacher, I'm good at researching things. I will find ways to simplify this process. If we can make it easier for the businesses to come in, we're also going to help out the homeowners that want to invest in this community too. Because if you want to invest here, you want to stay here. And that's what we need. So, by simplifying some of the processes, I'm not saying get rid of the board, I'm not saying the board, I'm saying the board is doing a bad job. But we can help out not only businesses, but we can help out homeowners as well by simplifying that process.
From a citizen's point of view, it seems like Pennsville is historically developed through a wait until someone comes to our door, but then we don't help them. We've missed multiple opportunities, as my running mate has stated. The Marriott that was supposed to be built behind the Exxon station would have brought huge ratables to Pennsville, but instead we let Marriott give up on Pennsville. Now the Super Wawa is coming, and we're giving away the town because we're desperate for new business. At the September 30th meeting, the solicitor gave an update on the new Wawa, and it may be a pilot program, but the length and the term for the pilot program that he stated was 30 years. 30 years for a pilot program. Now, in the research that I've done, the standard is 5 years, maybe 10 years, but 30 is very rare to offer an abatement for 30 years at 50%. This opens the doors for reduced assessments for other businesses that didn't get that deal, and virtually ignores the existing businesses in town. I know friends like Russ Curtin and Alan Levitsky pay over $20,000 each for their respective businesses on 49, Curtin's Auto Sales and AJ's Tavern, and they're not making the same amount of money that Wawa is going to be making at the foot of the bridge. They're going to be making millions and millions, and they'll be able to afford to pay it more than our local businesses that are here now. And this is unconscionable. I will bring in experts like Michael Lynn, who has brought in over $150 million in ratables for Carney's Point, and I'll work with professional developers. I will work with local investors like Jay Patel and John Vivo, and I will call for a strategic planning committee to develop a long-term plan, which includes short-term milestones to infuse momentum and bring much-needed hope to our community. Pennsville is a place, if you grew up here, you have great memories. Let's make sure our kids and grandkids still have the same memories.
Start with the, I'd say every questions, we'll start with closing remarks. Each candidate will have 2 minutes.
If we continue as we're going in the status quo, we'll end in decline. And if you want the future Pennsville deserves, then we need to go with change. And this can't be in the back room behind closed doors. You need to know what's going on, and you need to know where we are throughout the entire process. And you need to be part of it. This is your home too. It's not us versus them. It's not their town. We are Pennsville. We need leaders that are committed and not afraid of big commitments. They need to be tough enough to push through difficulties as they arise. And we need someone that won't give up on Pennsville and just say, every town has these problems. We need someone that can see more. It requires someone that wants to make Pennsville better, not just good enough. I can lead us through this transition. We've had many false starts in Pennsville, and I will not stop until it's completed. I promise to make Pennsville better. Vote for me, Christine Hone, and AJ on November 4th, and vote for Pennsville's future.
As I said, I've lived here my entire life. Pennsville is home. I want to live here for the next 50 years, and what I want to do now is I want to look out, not only for me, but I want to look out for everyone in here. I want to make sure that we're making decisions now that aren't going to have negative consequences in the future. I want, when I have my family, I want to have them to have the same amount of pride I had in Pennsville as I was growing up. This town is important to me. This place is my home. I went to school in North Jersey. I could have stayed in North Jersey. I wanted to come home. It's not just friends, family, it's everything in this town. It's got a little quirk to it. We need to exploit our quirks. We have the park. We're right next to the bridge. We have beautiful views out through the river. We have very good businesses in here that have wanted to stay here. We need to continue to have pride in this community, and we need to raise that pride with the others that are trying to move away, because they're unhappy here. Things have to be done now, but we also need to have a long-term goal in the future. Please vote for Christine and I on Tuesday.
I worked close to 40 years. Got done, retired, walked around the park for about 6 months and thought, you know what? I gained an awful lot of knowledge in those 40 years. Do I just let it go down the drain, or do I run for a township committee, get on the committee, and apply some of that knowledge? I've worked very hard the last 6 years to do just that. In my estimation, the group of people that make up the township committee now, both Democrats and Republicans, are working very hard, very well together. Completely unlike Washington, we sit down, we don't agree on everything, but we make the right decisions for the Pennsville Township. I have a very unique situation. My family owns 7 houses in Pennsville. My children chose to continue to live here. They all live within walking distance. I have 7 grandchildren, all in walking distance. I have a granddaughter that actually bought a house in Pennsville, so now we have 3 generations. I have a real vested interest in keeping Pennsville the place that me and my family and my grandchildren want to continue to live in. I guarantee you that when we make rules or when we make decisions, they're based around rules and state statutes and things that we are required to follow. It's real easy to say you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but when you get there and you see what's up against you, you have to follow laws and regulations. And we do that, and we do it to the best of our ability. So I have a real vested interest in continuing, Pennsville to prosper. I want to mention just one thing before I go. Campaigning. This has been one of the nastiest campaigns that I've ever been through. And it deters good people from running for these offices. That's why you keep seeing recycled politicians. Nobody's going to stand up and do this and take the abuse that we have to take. Vote on November 4th to stop this silliness. It doesn't need to happen. We can do this on issues and not make up fabricated things and just throw stuff up against the wall and see if it sticks. Total waste of all our time. Thank you.
Follow that, right? I want to thank Pennsville Town Watch and Community Pride for putting on the event. I want to thank all of you for caring enough about Pennsville to come out here, meet the candidates, see what your choices are, and then go home and make an informed decision. I would ask you to tell your friends what you learned tonight. Despite what my opponents say, being on the planning board for 11 years is one of the proudest accomplishments of my political career, my government career. 5 years ago, that planning board was everything that AJ said. It was a place where nobody wanted to go, everybody dreaded. It was a maze of cost and escrow and regulations, and we made a conscious choice that that's not the way we want to do government. So we streamlined it. We fixed the things that were wrong, we replaced some of our professionals, and we turned that planning board into a board that is actually on the side of the applicant, helping to steer them through the maze of state and federal regulations. I'm proud of that. And I will tell you that the feedback that I get from the applicants and from our professionals is that we've been successful. And the Pennsville Planning Board is, in fact, one of the most user-friendly boards in South Jersey. Now, you've heard a lot about our ideas and our plans and what we've done and who we're married to and all of that tonight. I'll tell you, I think the choice is really clear. Rob and I have made a career of doing the right thing and working to put your needs first. And we've done that in a manner that we're respectful of the cost of everything we do. I've heard ideas tonight that, while they probably will work, are expensive ideas. And I don't think that government spending is the answer to the problems that we have in Pennsville. I think there's a way that we can work efficiently and let the volunteers take care of the things that need to be done that way. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. That'll be the end of the first segment. We'll have a 10 or 15-minute break, and then we'll get right back with the freeholder candidates. Thank you.